I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, can't refuse it, didn't seek it, didn't choose it. But it's up to me to use it. I'm a sufferer if I lose it. Give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. Dr. Benjamin May's poem reflects the urgency with which attorney Earl B. Dickerson lived his life, and how he was able to accomplish so much and create a record challenging us to climb his ladder of progress. To the Chicago Bar Association President Dan Cotter, past president and chairperson of the Dickerson Awards, and the man who made it happen, Judge Kenneth Wright, and the members of the E. Dickerson Committee, my unending gratitude goes to you for this precious moment and this prestigious award. It's my joy to acknowledge all of those who are here on the dais, but it's my particular joy to acknowledge the presence of Justice Charles E. Freeman of the Illinois Supreme Court. He is my mentor and the man primarily responsible for my entire judicial career. He is here along with his colleague and my friend, Justice Mary Jane Tice, and also I have to acknowledge my soror, the incoming president of the CBA, Patricia Brown Holmes, as well as Mr. Curtis. I'm delighted to present to you the members of my immediate family. First, my rock and my source of consistent kindness, my husband, Ephraim Martin. We are joined by our niece, who is finishing her PhD in environmental health at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. So soon we will be calling her Dr. Naima Lillian Hall. And of course, the instigator and the inspiration for most of my accomplishments, the other half of this nation's first African-American sister appellate court justices team. From the great state of New York, the New York State Supreme Court Appellate Division, all the way from Brooklyn, or as she calls it, God's country, the Holy City. My dear sister, Justice L. Priscilla Hall. I thank all of my very special guests who are here today, including the legendary Dr. L.K. Curry and Dr. George, our cousin, all of them. And tables 2 and 3, stand up, let the people see how pretty you are. I particularly want to acknowledge the presence of my colleagues of the Illinois Appellate Court. From all of them, I think most of them at these 2 tables, I thank them for being here. And of course, my home organizations. Would you say, Justice Lampkin? Louder.
Myself and wonderful Justice.
Where is she? She told me she wasn't going to be able to be here. Okay, she's here. Justice Ann Burke, Justice Lampkin will bring it to my end. She's always interrupting me. Everywhere I go. At any rate, Ann Burke is not here, but she sent She sent acknowledgement and that she would not be able to make it today, but we do acknowledge her and her friendship. I want to, so thank you, Appellate Court Justices, for being here. And of course, my home organizations, the Illinois Judicial Council, who are here in great numbers, President Bill Hooks, the County Bar Association, the Black Women Lawyers Association, the National Bar Association, Sorors of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, and members of the Friendship Baptist Church. I appreciate the presence of my colleagues of the Circuit Court of Cook County, those from the federal courts, the administrative judicial officers as well, and to all of the legal organizations and members of the bar, and to each of you who chose to honor us with your presence at this wonderful Chicago Bar Association event. I thank you, one and all, for your support. You know, a Georgia professor said one day at the National Bar Association meeting that legacies are for building upon and not resting on. We are here to celebrate the legacy of Earl B. Dickerson, whose footsteps, in fact, I've been walking in without knowing it all of these years. He was president of Supreme Life Insurance Company and was a community leader and a civil rights litigator extraordinaire. He sat to the left of Dr. Martin Luther King during the 1963 March on Washington. Dickerson was an organizer of the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund, and I was an Earl Warren Fellow of the LDF, the Inc. Fund, as we like to call it, and litigated cases for them in Texas. Dickerson was president of the National Bar Association, my beloved organization, and I was vice president of the NBA and chair of the NBA Judicial Council. He paved the path that so many of us have blithely trod. And so I am glad that the Chicago Bar Association gives us the opportunity each year to just say thank you. Thank you, not just to Earl B. Dickerson, but to all of the leaders who brought us thus far on the way. From the intellectual genius of A. Leon Higginbotham from the Court of Appeals, who bolstered me during trying times, to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who shook this very hand when I was a young girl and asked me how I was doing while standing in my father's study. Didn't wash it for a long time. And then he went on and inspired me to become one of his drum majors for justice. And he spoke at the Friendship Baptist Church 3 times on the west side of Chicago. To remarkable people like my parents, the Reverend Dr. Shelvin Jerome Hall and Mrs. Lucy Mae Lewis Hall. You know, my mother marched around City Hall with us in tow, protesting using trailers as schoolhouses, which they called Willis wagons at the time, named for the then superintendent of schools. Now, this was a courageous thing to do because she was a public school teacher. And she continued to teach in the public schools for 53 years. My father was pastor of the Friendship Baptist Church on Chicago's Great West Side for 51 years. He was president of the Baptist General State Convention of Illinois and so many other organizations, and was one of the few black preachers on the West Side who was brave enough to let Dr. Martin Luther King speak from his pulpit. This was not a popular thing to do in Chicago in the 60s. And he went on to march with Dr. King in Selma and invited Dr. King to live on the west side of Chicago, which he in fact did for a short time. All of these are my legacies. And lest their sacrifice be for naught, let us not forget that today of all days is Election Day in the city of Chicago. So if you have to leave this place, and be sure and go and vote. But legacies are for building upon, not resting on. My question then to you becomes, whose legacy are you relying upon? What was the bridge that brought you across? What kind of condition is that bridge in now? Is it covered over with water and weeds and the mud of inattention? Is there anyone who can cross behind you? At a recent NBA meeting, we heard Senator Thompson of Florida warn us, we've got now, but who's got next? Thanks to the Earl B. Dickerson Award, I have personally given some thought to that question. What can I do to build upon the legacy? I thought about it for a little while, and you know what I think I'll do? I think I'll start the Reverend Dr. Shelvin J. and Louise Marie Hall Library of Religion and Law. In the building in the South Loop that currently stores all of their books and artifacts now. It will be a reading library, and as frequently as possible, we'll hold debates, say between lawyers and preachers, and we'll discuss the issues of the day and the interconnection or the disconnection between those two disciplines, aspiring to reach a level of understanding and cooperative effort to benefit the needs of the Chicago community. That's a pretty good idea, don't you think? Well, that's my idea. What's yours? The CBA is a hard-working organization, President Carter knows well. And there's no reason why this very luncheon should be any different. So I want each of you to take out your pens. Get your pens. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Take your program and write on it just one idea of how you will build on the legacy that got you to where you are today. Come on, Lawyer Dickerson. My staff is here, and he's sitting there looking at me. Get your pen, take your time, about 30 seconds. We have only just a minute. Write it down. Now take out your smartphones. Go to 1 year from today and write down S. Hall at illinoiscourts.gov. S. Hall at illinoiscourts.gov. And 1 year from today, send me an email. Let me know how your legacy building is coming along. I want to know. I really do. Because legacies like Earl B. Dickerson are for building upon and not resting on. The lesson for building on legacies is actually found in the trees. I read somewhere that in California, there grows an awesome and majestic tree. They call it the redwood tree. To look, to see, is to wonder, how can these trees be? These trees, which leap like petrified lightning to pierce the nether sky, up 369 feet high. These trees, whose unembraceable circumference measures more than 50 feet around, thus enabling them to hold their own against the howling horrors of a hurricane. These trees, which are known to live 1,000 and more years, and yet they lower their lofty limbs to brush aside generations of merely mortal men and women who come and go like flickering fireflies in unending night. How, we wonder, can these trees exhibit such grandiosity? Until one day a little known secret is uncovered. And it is the secret which will help us to build our legacies. A secret previously known only to the redwoods. You see, they knew that it wasn't just their own individual predilection toward growth which nurtured them to this magnificence, nor solely the sun, the water, and the earth, but rather they knew that deep underneath the earth, the roots of these trees do not exist alone. No, but the roots of one of the incomparable redwoods reaches out and it touches the roots of another redwood. And then it reaches out and touches a second and a third redwood. And then they are all inextricably intertwined, reaching out and clutching the roots of others, resulting in stupendous strength for them all. Like E.B. Dickerson, working together, we can build a legacy to benefit the ages. I thank you, I thank you, I thank you.